afternoon, everybody, and welcome once again to the Android Developer Relations Office Hours. This is the EMEA edition, coming to you from the middle of the afternoon, in the middle of the week, in the middle of the summer, in the middle of Europe. So I'm based out of Munich, Germany. I'm also joined by Nick and Matt in London, UK.
Hello.
Hey, everyone, and we're here to talk about Android application development with you. And with that, we will see if anybody wants to join us live in the Hangout. And if everybody's going to be shy and not join us live in the Hangout, then we'll talk through the questions that were sent in advance to the Google moderator. So is anybody in the Hangout? Nobody's in the Hangout. Perhaps we'll give them a minute or two.
I'm inviting people, but Hangouts is being a little bit, it's not really playing ball with me right now. So I think let's just jump straight to the moderator and cover some of the questions that were pre-submitted, and then we'll try and hopefully get some live participants later on, if that's cool.
Let's do that. So we have my moderator link is not showing my responses to the questions, so I'll look at it somewhere else. Okay, we have a question from Mitchell in Denmark, and he's been on a tear on this topic lately, which is specifically, when will all the developers, not just the top developers, be able to respond to user reviews or to respond to comments in the user reviews in the Google Play Application Store? His concern is that by only allowing top developers to respond to comments, it's effectively hurting everybody who's not a top developer. So that's what Mitchell wants to know. And my response to him basically was that this feature was only just rolled out, and the people who run the Google Play Application Store will evaluate what to do with that feature as they review the feedback that comes in based on the early responses that we get from having the top developer participate in it. So that's my answer. Maybe you guys want to offer your perspective on the issue.
No, I think you're exactly right. Like, it's a new feature we're rolling out, and we're rolling it out slowly so that we get it right. Really, like it's not like we're trying to hold stuff back from you guys. We're just trying to get it right and ease through that. But
that's right. So if we're going to screw it up, we're going to screw it up for the top developers. Ha!
Indeed.
Okay, let's move on then to the next question of the moderator. During I/O 2012, which happened this year, you announced that the paid application's assets will now be protected. In other words, the application will be encrypted before it's sent to the device. Will this feature be available for free apps using in-application purchasing? More generally, can we provide you, Brahim, with directions regarding APK's data protection? Well, the data protection just takes the data protection is simply that the Google Play Store encrypts the APK with a device-specific key, so that that APK can only be decrypted by the specific device that the APK is sent to. I do not know if they plan to extend it to free applications with in-application purchasing, but I would suspect that it's a lot less important, because when you're selling a paid application, your money stream is based on controlling which actual copies of the APK get sent out and where they go. When you use in-application billing, you're monetizing during runtime from any copy of the application that's hitting the billing server. So you don't really have a vested interest, a monetary interest in restricting which devices the application runs on. You just want to make sure that every running copy of the application is able to buy from your instance of the in-application purchasing online store. Did that make sense? Did I ramble too much?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one.
So it may be that they will extend it to IAP apps in the future. Who knows? But at the present time, I think they're covering the important bases first.
Yeah.
I see we have our first live participant in the call. A new face that I think maybe we haven't seen before. Oh, and there's also Al Sutton. Hi, Al. How you doing?
Hey, Sparky. Doing good. How are you?
So what's new with you in the last week?
Playing around with network service discovery in Jelly Bean. Very interesting little addition. Basically lets applications running on a device say that they can offer services, and other applications can dynamically discover services running on other devices on the same Wi-Fi network.
That's pretty cool.
So what have you been building with that? Have you got any ideas?
I've been messing around just with a simple couple of collaborative chat application, collaborative drawer applications. So say you're sitting in a session or something at a conference, everyone in the conference can have a chat and they can find each other via the network service discovery system. And also just shared whiteboard, so sitting in a meeting or something like that, people discover each other's devices, use a Nexus 7 or a similar Jelly Bean enabled device to use a collaborative whiteboard on the pad and then walk away with it. And after the meeting, everyone's got a copy of it.
Very nice. Very cool.
You know, I had a friend who tried to build a company around this concept several years ago, and he had it all working in straight-up Java, and I seem to recall it took him many months to develop each aspect of the service. How many months have you been on this, Al?
I've been on it about 2 days, and the network service discovery thing took me all of about 2 hours because the Java docs are all up as part of Android.com, and it all looks very simple and it works as it should. Is
there sample code to get you started as well, or did you just start yourself?
There's a sample flowchart, but given it's something I'm just playing around with, you might see some sample code appearing on GitHub soon.
Excellent. Ah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I like your new studio, by the way.
Oh, our normal room was busy, so we were just in a room next door. No one was squatting in it. Oh, no. So we've got no androids climbing, trying to break out the window behind us, unfortunately, this week. Alrighty.
I think you've all got pretty posh digs compared to my phone booth here. I'm in about a 1.5 by 2 meter room here.
Isn't that called a toilet?
I think I would have more room if I were there.
Somebody posted a really awesome article about dissecting how the app encryption works, going back to the APK encryption we were just talking to last night, just now. I just read it last night. It was really a deep dive. They've obviously gone through the Jelly Bean source. Now it's been open source. They've gone through the package manager, or package manager service, in fact, to see how this is implemented and what it means. It was a really interesting read. I'll try and find the link and post it in the announcement comments.
I'm doing a quick little search to see if I can bring it up. In the meantime, should we maybe take another look at the moderator, see what we've got queued up?
Sure.
So, it's like Kath in Bristol wants to know, noticed in Jelly Bean that the RenderScript graphics API has been deprecated. Have we talked about this before? I don't remember if this is a new question or old one.
I think this one's a new one.
This was used for things like the video wall on YouTube, page turning effects in Google Books, etc. What should we use instead? OpenGL? Will this have the required performance? I would say it's pretty much a slam dunk that OpenGL would have the required performance, because I think that's pretty much about as good as you can get is to program an OpenGL, particularly if you do it using the NDK. Do we have any other options for high performance graphics? Absent RenderScript graphics, I guess not really. Another thing to keep in mind, though, is also that now canvas drawing is hardware accelerated by default, so you should be able to get much higher performance out of canvas drawing than you ever used to be able to back in pre-ICS versions of Android.
Yeah, absolutely. The nearer you get to the hardware, the more performance you're going to get, but perhaps less portability. So, yeah, writing plain, direct OpenGL is going to be the most performant thing you can really do. But if you try and get right into the optimizations for different graphic cards and so on, and changing the order in which you make OpenGL calls and so on, you can get the most performance. But then you kind of might lose a little bit of portability. So you might want to take a look at doing the level up. So yeah, like you say, Sparky, using our 2D drawing pipeline and turning on the hardware acceleration.
Yeah, I think the hardware independence and the sort of boilerplate-less simplicity of RenderScript was really nice. But I understand that the feedback received by the graphics team, both from within the Android development team and also from the external developer community, was the demand wasn't there to keep that API going.
Right.
Let's see. I see, Nick, you came up with a link for that article, and you. Al, did Al post the link?
That's a link to the OpenGL documentation. At the moment, the Hangout doesn't seem to be publicly posted on the Android developers Google Plus stream, which is why.
Yeah, I keep on trying to post it, and it keeps on saying failed.
Hi.
So I think we are live. Like, there's people watching us on YouTube. I can see that. So it's just not announced.
Okay.
And we have people joining. Do you want me to stick some of the links in the event that I've put up for this Hangout until we can get the comments up and running?
Let me try just doing a regular old post with the Hangout link. Let me just copy that.
Let's see. I'm going to paste in the link that Nick turned up for the article about the application encryption in Jelly Bean. So we'll just, if anybody is not having access to the sidebar notes, it's nelenkov.blogspot.com, and then you can just search using app encryption in jellybean.html. That should be enough to get you to the article. So, this is going to be a quick hangout if we didn't get more people in the call. I know that Tal in Tel Aviv, he told me that he wanted to be in the call, but he's using a mobile client, so there's a little bit of uncertainty whether he can connect. I don't know if he's trying to get in.
I'm following his stream and I can't see anything coming up, so.
Hanging.
Right.
Right, I'm just doing a manual post, seeing as G+ isn't plain ball. I just did a manual post. Can people see that in the Android developers stream?
Yes.
Excellent, great.
Yeah, I'm onto Android developers, but I'm not looking at it very often.
Cool. So hopefully we'll get a few more live participants now that we've posted that link. We have someone else who's found us. Christopher? Christopher, how are you doing? If you're not able to talk right now, you can chat. Ah, you are. Hey. Sorry about the age. The Hangout seems to be having a bit of a problem posting it to its stream, so I just had to do it manually. So yeah. So
no audio or video. Okay, well perhaps Christopher would like to type a question to us, or compose a short essay on what's going on. While he's doing that, maybe I'll take another question from the moderator. Things are reordering a little bit. Jelly Bean. Regarding Arabic support, I'm planning to have an app not yet launched translated into Arabic. Arabic-speaking users may represent 30 or 40% of my target audience. What should my Min SDK be to fully support this language? I would say our support for right-to-left languages is fairly new and still rapidly evolving. Previous to Ice Cream Sandwich, it was really rough. And even now in Jelly Bean, I'm sure it's going to get better and better as we gradually revise the OS. But if you're looking at reaching a practical number of users with your application, you probably need to target Gingerbread or Froyo. That's where the bulk of the users are. And I think you just need to evaluate what you can do with maybe Arabic font support and static text labels, and maybe forego some of the interactive things like accepting right-to-left text input, but try to see how much functionality you can package into a Gingerbread or a Froyo application, API 10 or 8, just to get the mass of users behind your application.
It's also probably worth pointing out that some manufacturers have different support for right-to-left languages, so it's probably worth them getting hold of the devices they expect the users to use on the main and seeing if the language they're using in particular is supported on it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've had a number of chats with the developer from Tel Aviv that I was referring to before, Tal, and he tells me that it's very common for devices where he is to be localized into Hebrew, even though the reference version of those exact same devices that comes out of Google, say a Nexus branded device, won't have it.
Yeah, some of the carriers added. I think even the open source guys, like I think the CyanogenMod mod community, I think have added some support for right to left. I think I'm not completely familiar with it, but I believe they have.
But I think that we've had the ability to display static strings in some of these scripts for much longer than we've had the ability to edit them, say, in user interactive text fields. So I see we have a full hangout now. We've been joined by a whole bunch of guys. Does anyone want to jump in and say hello and talk about what you're doing, ask us questions, tell us what's on your mind?
Hey Chris, do you want to tell us about PhotoUp?
Well, yeah, it's just something I've wanted to done for a while, basically. It's just basically a Facebook uploader. So I basically just wanted a simple app that could upload multiple photos at once, just in a nice, simple way. And I've just kind of messed with an iPhone the other day. I've been sort of looking at sort of the Facebook app that they created called Facebook Camera, which is just sort of very simple native app, just to let you basically upload photos. I thought I'd do it myself on Android. So I spent about 2 weeks doing it, and it's literally just went live like last week. So I don't know, it's just interesting to do.
And how many libraries did you open source in the process?
Well, yeah, I don't mind doing that though, because it's, you know, it's never going to make any money. It's not. I haven't done it for that. And if I'm never going to make any money off it, I might as well just release most of the stuff as open source, because it might as well help people. So.
Yeah, I mean, you've already got a pretty useful pull to refresh library in there, and there was one that's an image view that's got pinch to shrink and those kind of features.
Yeah, there's like a multi-touch zoom in image view, which I've open source. But trying to say, most of the code from that was created, just pinched off the old gallery app. So the old, I don't know if
reuse.
But it's open source.
Exactly, yeah, that's the whole point.
Exactly.
Yeah, when I see people doing pinch zooming wrong, especially like a lot of people do it, so if you're in the 2-finger tracking mode, so if you're tracking like a pinch, they don't actually do panning at the same time. Like, it really annoys me when you see an implementation that doesn't do that. It's like, we've open source code which shows exactly how to do this. Like, why are you doing it wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so having a good library which is kind of tested and used widely is brilliant. So thanks for that.
Nice.
I was interested actually in looking at it. You've integrated some of the filters and things that Lightbox has open source. How did you find that process? Was that easy to do? Or?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't sort of released it as a library. It's a standalone app they've done. So the code they released isn't sort of usable in itself to just not be reused in like an existing app. So I created it's basically I forked it on GitHub, and I've made it a bit better for libraries. But yeah, the one thing I found out is that it's not multi-threaded, it's single-threaded. So you can't do multiple filters or any of this sort of effects or cropping or resizing or anything like that on multiple threads. So you have to be careful what thread you use.
Oh, interesting.
And a couple of other bits like that. But yeah, it's a nice little library and it works well. So
yeah, well, it's good of them to share it.
Exactly.
Do you want to post a comment in the post that Nick put up with a URL to it so people can grab it if they want to?
Definitely. So is this github.com/Chris Baines?
Yeah.
Name?
It's all on there.
But yeah, if you post a link in the announcement of this Hangout post, that'd be fantastic.
Will do.
And that's all Apache 2 license, is it?
Yeah, it's all Apache.
Wonderful. So with your photo album, are you doing anything similar to the instant upload stuff?
I will do. I haven't got around to it yet, but I will do. I'm trying to think how to do it nicely. So probably a content observer, just like a service that runs in the background.
Or, well, an ice cream sandwich onwards, there's a broadcast intent.
Oh, so.
Yeah, there's a photo taken broadcast. React to.
Trouble is, it depends if sort of Samsung or anyone else have changed all that, because they've got their own camera app and all the rest of it. So, probably
Yeah,
easy to just
that.
put content observer on. Don't know. I will do, but I haven't got around to it yet.
Or you do a file system watcher, which is watching on the DCIM folder maybe, or something like that.
That's quite a nice way of doing it, actually. It feels hacky, but it'll work.
Yeah, internet upload is one of my favourite features of Google Plus, and I guess we're kind of preaching to the converted on this Hangout, but like if someone's more of a Facebook user, then yeah, it'd be a cool little feature. So who else have we got live participants? Who else is here who has a Android development question, or wants to tell us about something they've been working on, or has questions? Anyone live want to speak up? Just stop picking on people.
Speak up or type up.
I have a small problem I'm facing regarding resource ID.
Okay.
I have implemented something like a plugin kind of a feature of, for a keyboard application I'm writing, and this keyboard can be extended with themes and other languages and layout and stuff like that. I've chosen to use attributes and stylables to parse XMLs in external APKs. So something that I noticed is that the IDs of the attribute change when I add and remove new attributes.
Yeah, they're generated at build time, right?
Right. And I was wondering if there's a way to maybe set them or maybe fix them to a value.
You can create an external resource. So there's an IDs resource type where you can actually create a custom resource, and you can reuse that ID whenever you need to. I can't remember.
With a specific value?
Well, no, the value still generates at runtime. It's just that you can still point to that ID, and it will always.
It's like a direction point.
And my problem is actually I'm doing something similar. I use a set of attributes which in a separate file, and the stylable reference to those attributes. So it works fine for now. I can add and remove attributes as I wish, and it doesn't break any old packages. But since it generates the IDs at runtime, at some point the build chain could change the IDs, and will completely ruin my old plugins.
Seems to me like either you need to depend on the strings, the symbolic values, or you need to pin down your numeric values somehow. Maybe capture your resource identifiers once and just save them off as text constants or static finals or something like that.
Or is there the opportunity to use a content provider so that your plugins can query the main application and get the IDs back?
Good idea.
Okay. That sounds like a lot of work.
Content providers aren't all that huge. What you can do is you can even use reflection if you know the values of them. So you can then reflect into the ID database, or the r.id class, and you can pick out the IDs from that in your main application and return them via the content provider's interface. So you're separating your plugin from your actual main application.
Okay, but that won't help me save the old plugins. Currently, I have something like 30 plugins already published. So I need something that either fix the value of the resource or actually I have no idea. The other option I was thinking about was to move back to actual XML parsing with the XML pool or similar way.
That's not such a bad solution, really. I mean, it's not quite as performant as just looking up a number, but realistically, how often do you have to do it? I mean, you parse the XML once when you load the plugin, or maybe even when you install it, and then you're pretty much done. I think that it's worth incurring a performance penalty for something that only happens, once a day or less.
Okay. Okay, so you are not familiar with any way to fix the value of the attributes.
There is a method to do it. I'm trying to think what it is. It's used in the AOSP source code for fixing specific IDs, and I have a feeling it's either an annotation in a class or there's a marker in the XML. I'll try and dig out a URL for you and post it on the Google Plus stream post for this Hangout if I can find it.
Okay, great, thanks.
Can't you just create a fixed list of IDs and then just assign them in the XML? Rather than using a generated ID, just actually assign the integer?
I didn't catch you.
So you create a list, like an integer array or integer values in XML, and then just assign the int as the ID rather than a generated ID. So instead of doing @+ID / whatever, you just do, I don't know if this will work off the top of my head, just do, what is it?
I guess you could have a mapping from the generated IDs to just a fixed set of IDs for that particular plugin, and then do that for each plugin. Is that what you're sort of getting at?
Okay, I will test. This is an example of the attributes. If you will go check out this file, this is how I've declared the attributes. If you go about halfway into the file, you'll see something that's called a keyboard-based view or something like that. So each one of those attributes are their ID are automatically generated at build time.
Mm-hmm.
For now, since ADT 10, about something like 10, the IDs were always the same, but they are generated at runtime, so it might someday break.
There's an XML attribute called MSGID that's used in the translations for the framework, for the core framework of Android, and the strings all use this MSGID with a set value which appears to fix that value. I'm trying to find whether it can be used in other attributes, but it looks like that might solve your problem.
Yeah, that would be great.
Huh. It's never heard of that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure whether it's a public API or not. That's part of my concern.
Well, certainly looks worth following up on anyway.
What I'll do is I'll post a couple of links in the sidebar in the comments so you guys can carry on with something else.
Okay, great,
Pick
thanks.
it up later.
Yeah. Is there any more live questions from people in the Hangout? Who have we got? Let's start picking on some people. We've got Leslie's joining us. Hello. Emil. And someone else who's muted their video. I can't see who you are. Any live questions you want to join, or are you just hanging out, just here to chat?
I do have a question.
I'll take the deadly silence as here to hang out. Should we jump back into the moderator, Sparky?
Let's jump back to the moderator. I've got a couple of new questions that came in late. I haven't had time to think about them, so maybe I'll skip forward to the ones that I've already looked into. How much longer until Ubuntu 12.04 has official support for building Android, and what types of problems should I expect if I begin compilation? Well, that's a good question. I can build Android on my Ubuntu system, but it's not a 12.04 system. I use an older version of Ubuntu. But I will say that the biggest obstacle that I had in building Android was getting the right Java compiler in there. Specifically, the open source Java compiler that Ubuntu uses by default is not the right one. You need to actually have the official Sun JavaC 1.6 or higher compiler. So make sure you get that in there and get all the rest of the dependencies, and I see no reason why it wouldn't work. Unless there's something special about Ubuntu 12 that I don't know.
There's something special about Ubuntu 12 that you don't know.
Okay.
Ubuntu 12.04 is currently only supported in experimental state on the master branch of the Android open source repository. There are instructions on setting up your build environment on source.android.com that specifies some of the things you need, but there was a compiler upgrade for the C compiler, as well as some library upgrades which can cause issues building on 12.04 specifically. Best place to go is onto the Android building mailing list and have a search, because there are quite a few people who've done it. There are quite a few people who are posting up their experiences and the tricks you need to solve the issues.
All right. That sounds like a very authoritative answer. It's nice to know that there's people out there who have time to do the things that I don't have time to look into.
What do you build on now? You build on OS X?
I build on OS X, but I need to do some tweaking, and I also use Ubuntu 10.04, which is the current recommendation for Ice Cream Sandwich and Jelly Bean.
I think that's a pretty good suggestion too. I mean, since all the versions of Ubuntu are always available for download, just tell somebody, if you're really keen on building Android, install an older version.
A lot of people use VirtualBox, Parallels, VMware, something like that, to just pop up a virtual machine with 10.04 on, so they don't have to do a complete reinstall. The main thing for Ice Cream Sandwich, Jelly Bean, and in fact pretty much everything since Froyo, is it needs to be a 64-bit installation. You can't use a 32-bit installation reliably.
Okay. Well, I do build the Android firmware in a virtual machine from time to time, and although it's quite slow, it's not unbearably slow. It takes less than a day easily to do a full build of everything in my virtual machine.
If I told you that a full build on my machine takes about 30 minutes, you can get nice fine differences.
Wow.
What are you running, Al? Mac Pro?
Yeah, it's 16 core, 32 gig, 3 SSDs, Mac Pro.
Oh my God.
It's part of what I do for a living, so having a fast build means I can spend more time fixing problems and less time seeing where builds break.
Wow.
I can see that.
That works as one hell of an excuse to constantly upgrade.
Absolutely.
Plus you also don't need any heating in your house.
Nope. You'd see that every time the machine goes on, the cats suddenly appear and find the best place to sleep is on top of it.
Wow. How you doing? Oh, I was going to say how you doing, Jack, but he seems to have just left.
All right. Shall we Don't see any questions in the sidebar. Nobody's looking antsy. We'll take another one from the moderator. In Google I/O, it was announced that in Google Play, instead of installing the whole application, only the changed part of the application will be downloaded from Google Play to the device. When can we expect this update in the Google Play Store? Well, I don't know, and I don't think it matters because it's completely transparent to us, the developers. There's really nothing for us to do, so we can simply either let it happen or not happen. And another question just came in. When will the Nexus S binary for Jelly Bean be available? I don't know when they are, but the sources are up there, and if you're really that impatient, you can try to jump the gun and build your own version.
What's this for?
Jelly Bean for Nexus S.
They want binaries for Nexus S for Jelly Bean. That would be one of those unannounced unannounced products things that we don't really talk about.
It'll be after it starts shipping out to devices. That's the common answer that comes out of JBQ on that question, is once you see devices start being updated in the field, sort of public devices, after that you'll start seeing the factory images appear.
Yeah, that's when we do the factory image, yeah, definitely.
And it's usually the drivers come along once the agreements have been reached, and it's usually after that's happened.
With Nexus S, at least, we have, if I recall correctly, we have better access to the hardware-level stuff than we have had on some of our previous devices, and we have better ability to generate updates to it than we used to have.
Yeah, that pretty much seems to be the case. There were some licensing issues with the CDMA one that's been sorted out now, so everything looks like it should be nice and buttery as the Jelly Bean user interface.
Yeah, I think it should fly on the Nexus S, because I think if I remember correctly, there was actually more kind of RAM available given the screen size. So I believe it should run pretty well in the Nexus S.
Right, you're saying that the pixel count on the Nexus S relative to the strength of its GPU and its bus is more favorable than on the Nexus?
Yeah, everything's pretty much fill bound, right? Yeah, fill rate bound, and I think we had a bigger bandwidth. Well, that was less of an issue on the Nexus S due to the much reduced pixel density compared to something like the Galaxy Nexus.
It's the same GPU as the Nexus, isn't it? The Galaxy.
It's a Power VR, isn't it? The Nexus S, I believe. I can't remember offhand. I'll have to check.
Don't recall. Yeah, Trevor's saying the same thing.
Yeah, SGX 540, that sounds about right.
So, can I throw out a quick question? I don't really know how this works.
Please, yeah,
Go for it.
Thank you. So, yeah, I'm an Android developer making a bunch of apps, but I've got a bug right now for an app I'm doing that only occurs on Foreo. And so, it works. I can reproduce it on the emulator, and I'm kind of curious if it actually happens on the device. So you're talking about images. Can I find a Foreo image? I don't want to build it really. Can I get a Foreo image and flash it onto the Google I/O Nexus S?
So you
Probably not a Nexus S. If you had a Nexus 1, you could probably do it.
I do have a Nexus. I do have the Nexus 1 here, but it's just dead. I don't know. It doesn't turn on anymore. I got another battery from Amazon, but that didn't help.
So did you say you've tried the emulator already?
Yeah, I've tried I can reproduce the bug on the emulator, but I'm just curious if it actually happens on a device too. It was a really weird bug where it couldn't find a resource, and the fix was to move an XML drawable out of one of the drawable HDMI directories to just drawable. So it's like a weird bug, right? So I was just curious that it actually happened on a real build.
That's really weird bug.
Yeah,
Funny
exactly.
things can happen on real devices, but that doesn't sound like one of them.
It was on the emulator. This happened on the emulator, right? That's why I didn't think it had happened on a real device. So ideally what I do is find a Foreo image out there and flash it on one of the plethora of devices I have.
It wasn't by any chance that the drawable was in something like XHDPI, because Foreo wouldn't have been aware of that tag, would it?
That's exactly what...
Integrated.
That's true, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if the drawable was in XHDPI, I don't think Froyo would have been aware of that bucket size, at which point I don't think it would have checked and then used that as the best fit drawable.
Right, and it won't automatically downscale.
So this was an XML resource on this project I got into. It was like I don't know, just some drawable, XML drawable, right?
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but the resources system wouldn't even know to look in the XHDPI directory. It wouldn't know of such a thing existing.
Well, no, it only existed in the drawable, like, I think it was HDPI directory,
Okay.
not in the drawable directory. And so when it went to inflate the layout, it crashed. The exception was that it couldn't find the file, couldn't find the XML file.
So it
I moved
only
it-
existed in HDPI.
Pardon me?
It only existed in the HDPI folder.
Yeah, and a couple others, HDPI, HDPI-V9, HDPI-V11, HLDPI.
So if it didn't exist in sort of, if you run on a device where it wouldn't fit, then it would throw that because you can't find it.
Well, I ran it on the emulator, and I guess I couldn't find it in one of those directories. Or really, what the doc said for says for XML drawables is to only put them in the drawable directory, not the drawable density directory.
Well, it sounds to me like it was working as intended, really, because like if it was only like the V9, like you're saying, which means that draw will only be available on Gingerbread and beyond. Like.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So maybe it was just. Yeah. What about like HDPI though? That should have found it on Froyo.
Yeah, that would have worked ever since 1.6, I think.
Only if it was on an HDPI device, though. I'm just going to make a big assumption. I'm assuming you're not an experienced Android programmer?
Yeah, no, I've done quite a bit of stuff, but I haven't done too much of the resource.
Because the resource selectors depend on the device as well as the OS.
Exactly. So right. So I use the emulator, right, and it is where I got the bug. Is where I wanted to actually try it on a device.
And you had it set up so it should have picked from that resource directory.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so, okay, so I think we got to the bottom of it. Yeah, it sounds like EV shouldn't be like putting in that drawable. If like, your layout shouldn't be referencing it if, that drawable shouldn't exist on the older platform. Or, but generally XML drawables will go just in the straight drawable folder. And then they go out to concrete implementation.
Yeah, is there something in Froyo will not pick up the XML drawable, like it'll only look for it in the drawable directory?
No, not that I'm aware of. It sounds just like it couldn't see that drawable, but that kind of like a directory in which it really existed because of some kind of version qualifier. It sounds like to me, but had to see. But as for your question about testing it, like no, you can't really just flash an image if it doesn't exist. But you could look at something like TestDroid. If you go to testdroid.com, which will let you have like remote access to a real device, so you can upload an APK and have it executed and get results back. So I think they have a free program which lets you, do so many tests over a period of time before you have to pay to start doing it and get the pro service. But like, if you want to do the random odd test, you could select it for your device and, run your APK on that and see what happens.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you.
.com. Good service.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, Nick and Al, I think you pretty much had it with, XML drawables should probably not go into directories that are DPI related. That those DPI suffixes are really for bitmap data.
Yeah, totally.
Just been joined by Sterling Goodell. Do you have anything you want to talk about? Any questions, or you want to discuss what you're doing with Android these days?
I had a question, well, sort of a discussion point. Can you hear me all right, by the way?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay, just checking. That I had put on the moderator queue for the North American Hangout, but this is a more convenient time for me, as it turns out. And it's basically to do with semantic zoom. The concept, in the ice cream sandwich calendar app, you can pinch to zoom and expand your appointments over the day and then contract them back down. And it's kind of similar to what has been done with the new notifications in Jelly Bean, but it's a different UI for it. There, to expand it, you take 2 fingers and drag down.
You can pinch as well.
You can pinch to close, but not to open.
You can pinch to open, I believe. It's kind of fiddly, but...
Well, I haven't got it to work yet, if it is.
Oh. Yeah, I just watched the Google I/O talk about that today, and I seem to recall they said that several different affordances were all...
pinch to open. Yeah, it works. I just did it.
Okay. Well, that sort of answers my question then, because I've got an app. See, I was pinching vertically, which seemed to make sense to separate the rows.
There's about 3 or 4 different ones, and then you can like do some weird two-finger movement. Yeah, there's all sorts of weird ones.
Gesture, which I wasn't too sure about when I played it. I think two-finger drag up and down is definitely the easiest way to go. In fact, I rarely actually expand or collapse them. I tend to just work from the top and triage, because it also expands the top one. But maybe that's
sure. I think the reason I bring it up is I've got an app that semantic zoom would be quite useful in, and I'm wondering if there's a recommended UI affordance to implement, given there seems to be some variance in the Google apps, really.
Yeah, well, pinch tends to be like the standard zooming in and out. I think that would probably be my preferred first option. I think the reason we investigate other gestures and the notifications is simply like a space reasons that it's reasonably small tap targets. So I would definitely look at a pinching as the first port of call if that works for you.
Sure, I think it would. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I think especially things like it's such a accepted gesture now in maps and browser and photo galleries and so on. But I'll definitely try that first.
Okay.
There's some chat going on in the sidebar. Trevor Sullivan.
Some of the stuff's about the Nexus given out at I/O, so skip that.
Okay.
I wish I could have had one of those. Does anyone else? Yes, Google employees, we do not get the swag.
I'll swap you one for a Google Glass Developers Kit.
Oh, I'd love one of those as well.
Does anyone else have a question that they want to talk about live in the Hangout in the last few minutes?
And so I'll just jump back here just while you're at, since you asked. Okay, so this is the resource thing. So I want to just clarify, just to make sure I'm getting this right. So the XML drawables were removed from the LDPI, MDPI, and XHDPI and put in the drawables directory. And it's a standard 2.2 emulator image. You know what I mean? And so just changing that, just moving them to the drawables directory, everything worked fine. I could find it at that point. So I guess does that make sense to everyone?
Perfectly, yeah. Yeah, like Sparky said, it really doesn't make any sense to have a XML drawable which has no concept of density in a density-specific folder.
But it appears to work out, at least on Gingerbread enough.
I think that's more of a happy accident than by design.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you.
No worries. I had a question for you guys. Does the term office hours mean anything to you guys? Does it make sense, or is this a weird American Google thing?
I think Hangout will be better.
Just Hangout?
Yeah. Android developers Hangout.
Office hours definitely resonates with me because it's the term that we used back in my university days when we wanted to talk to a professor or a TA.
Okay.
I think office hours also implies that you're here with somebody sort of more official rather than just a developer. Hangout could be anybody.
Uh-huh.
But the only thing with office hours that comes to my mind, it sounds kind of like a drop-in thing. I don't know if that's what you want to portray it as, but it sounds like you'd be running it over a long time. People drop in and drop out, and there may be times when you're just on your own here.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I think we do want it to be a drop-in. But at the same time, I don't know if we necessarily want to project the image of, we three, we are the voices of authority, and you shall accept our divine guidance. I think something much more conversational is what I would want that for.
How about making the use of the Hangout and saying, hold your hand up if you think office hours is a fine name?
I just need to implement that reverse YouTube lookup thing so I can see what other people are doing. I'd say I'd read the comments on YouTube, but I don't want to do that.
Chris doesn't get extra points for wearing a pirate's hat during that.
Oh, he didn't appear on mine.
Oh, there he is. I guess the corollary to that point is we hope you guys have been enjoying these office hours hangouts, and we definitely want to expand it more, like the guys in the US are doing. I mean, maybe have a bit of a bigger team and a bit of a better setup. We're trying to replicate that out here, well, the setup at least. But we want to do some more kind of like app reviews and branch out from just a question and answer session into like best practice and interviewing some people. We've got some great developers here in Europe that I'd love to kind of like have as guests kind of thing on the show and talk about the great work they're doing. But if you guys have any suggestions about the content you want to hear from us, like, what's the most useful to you? Is it this kind of questions and answer and having some direct access, via us to like get questions answered, or is it, what do you want to hear from us really? If anyone's got any suggestions, then we're all ears.
I think this is great as a developer, but as a thing running into the weekend, I'd love to see some app reviews. So I've got things to play with and get inspiration from.
So do you watch the shows that they're doing in the US at the moment? The kind of the Friday app review and the games review?
I watch the YouTube feed afterwards and get some of those, but it'd be cool if you guys could highlight some of the local content and some of the local talent in terms of developers who are producing good apps.
So you like it as like a showcase of interesting stuff, or do you like it for the tips and tricks you pick up during the review? Or
I like it for the showcase. It's something that it's a good way to find a set of applications that are kind of good examples of how to do things and what's user-friendly, so that we can see some recommendations for kind of things we should look to implement in our apps in terms of user interface or not even guidelines, but user interface tricks and tips to make things very simple to interact with.
Cool.
So are you thinking multiple shows? One show with some some questions? Dare I ask?
Well, I definitely want to get into some app reviews. It's the kind of thing we experiment with a few of our live kind of sessions before, which I think's gone down really well.
Can I throw out a suggestion?
Yeah.
Why not do the app review and then have the developers' questions hang out straight after it, so the guys who've written the applications could hang around and get questioned during the developers' hangout?
Yeah, well, so what, just run them back to back?
Yeah, so that way you can see what they've done, you can see the cool things, and then ask them how they did it and if they got any tricks and tips.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Cool idea.
+1, says Sterling. Any other requests? More hats, more beer, anything else?
Hey, beer's always good.
Yeah, I think we're still working on the delivery mechanism for e-beer.
You found Kinder Stout, Sparky, so there must be other things you can find that look in a similar way.
You know where I was when I found that, right?
In the UK.
No, that was in Buxton.
Blimey.
Cool. Okay, well, sorry that we were a bit late starting today. We're having a couple of challenges with the Hangouts, unfortunately, which is why the announcement post went out a bit late. But I'm glad that we managed to get a good quorum of people joining us and a bunch of people following along on YouTube. So also hi to the people watching later, I guess.
All right.
But for now, that's a wrap for this week's office hours, as you guys seem to enjoy it being called. So thank you very much for joining us. As always, feel free to submit questions into the moderator for next week's hangout. And until then, we'll have a good week.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.